What rookie wide receiver will be better in 2021 and for the future? Ja'Marr Chase or Devonta Smith? You tell me your opinions below, but I'm going to break down both wide receivers and I'm going to tell you why. Both of these guys could be top 5 wide receivers in fantasy football for the next decade. I know a lot of people are going to say there are too many wide receivers for them to wiggle their way up into the top 5, but I'm going to tell you one thing. The wide receiver position is changing in college football. These guys are coming out more prepared than ever, being bred differently, and while nobody should count on a Justin Jefferson emerging as a rookie, doing what Justin Jefferson did as a rookie, in the right spot, I could definitely see either Ja'Marr Chase or Devonta Smith doing what Jefferson did in 2020 in 2021. Who do I like better? Who's the better talent? I'm going to tell you. Or will I? Or do I love both of them? We're breaking that down and more. The Fantasy Football Show begins now.
This is the Fantasy Football Show with your host, Smitty.
Top 5 running back. You're watching the Fantasy Football Show. Smitty. Take a lap. Okay, so I'm going to be honest with you. I love both of these guys. And I know that some people are going to throw Waddle into the mix. It's Ja'Marr Chase, Devonta Smith,
and Waddle, Smitty.
But I just don't see it that way. I get it. I get it. Waddle's talented. I'm not saying Waddle isn't talented. I just like Ja'Marr Chase and Devonta Smith that much more. It's about them, not Waddle. Everybody and their mother said that Ruggs and Reagor would be as good as the other wide receivers in the draft class. People are underestimating Ruggs and Reagor, who I might remind you I was not on board for either one. Ruggs was the prototypical speed guy that didn't have all the other intangibles. He was quick, he was fast, he was exciting, a special teams dream, landing in a black hole of a situation for wide receivers that I don't really see that changing. Ruggs, to me, the writing was on the wall. It was Lamb, it was Jeudy, it was Jefferson all the way. And I feel the same way about Chase and Smith versus the other wide receivers. Now, let's be honest here. I know a lot of people are going to pretend that this isn't true. They don't want to believe it. But you didn't once think that Davante Adams was going to be as good as Davante Adams became what he is right now. Why did Davante Adams turn into Davante Adams? Aaron Rodgers is the answer. Without Aaron Rodgers, Davante Adams would not even be close to the same wide receiver that he is right now. That's not taking anything away from D. Adams. He is who he is right now. But Aaron Rodgers turns good talent into amazing talent. My point being that situation matters. If Waddle lands in an unbelievable situation, one we don't even comprehend right now, maybe his future passer isn't even on the team right now, wherever he goes. It could take him 1 to 3 years. It used to take rookie wide receivers 1 to 3 years to break out. I'm not saying Waddle can't somehow find his way into an amazing situation that turns him into an amazing wide receiver and he becomes a top 10 wide receiver in fantasy football. I'm not saying it's not possible, but as it stands right now, talent-based ranking, Ja'Marr Chase, Devonta Smith, Waddle, and everybody else is in another tier down below. Situation will most certainly dictate which one of these guys balls out quicker and is a better player in the long term. If one of these guys lands in New England, where N'Keal Harry went and vanished, the maturity process for whoever lands there will be much slower. And they may or may not ever hit their full potential unless they change things in New England drastically. Situation's king. Can good wide receivers make it out of a bad situation? Of course, DeAndre Hopkins was good even when he didn't have Deshaun Watson throwing him the football. Calvin Johnson survived without an elite quarterback for a lot of years. Chase or Smith would probably still develop, but my point being is these guys are insane right out of the gate, right out of the box if they land in Cincy, Philadelphia. My prediction is that Chase gets paired with Burrow, his old quarterback from LSU. These guys played together in college. Some people don't know that. Burrow was his quarterback. Burrow was the last guy throwing him the football at LSU. Ja'Marr Chase sat out 2020 to prepare for the NFL draft. He didn't play in 2020. Nobody cares. Nobody should care. He's a beast. We know what he can do. I don't mind that he sat out a year. He's young. He's in college. Would I worry about a pro sitting out a year at 24 years old? Yeah, it's different in this situation. It was smart. He didn't devalue his draft value at all. But prior to 2020, You know who did increase their value by playing football in 2020? Devonta Smith. Smith is a monster. If Smith lands in Philadelphia, where I predict him to go, he'll be catching footballs from Jalen Hurts, who I predict to be a top 5 to 10 quarterback in 2021 and beyond. His running alone is going to guarantee him a bunch of fantasy points, but Jalen Hurts to a weapon like Devonta Smith, watch the rapport build from the get-go. And if the Eagles do this, if they draft one of these guys or Kyle Pitts, they will be putting themselves in a position to be very quickly the next Buffalo Bills, the turnaround franchise. But Devonta Smith probably has the best hands out of any wide receiver in this draft class, and you could probably go back a couple draft classes and say this is the best guy in the hands department. He runs quick slants like Mike Thomas. He destroys defenses after the catch like a beast. He's a playmaker. He's an all-around playmaking machine. 50-50 balls, amazing hands, super quick, super fast. Literally the only negative going against this guy is that he weighs 175 pounds. But I don't care. I like to compare him a little bit to Randy Moss in terms of his build. Even though Moss weighed a lot more, he was still a very skinny, lanky guy. Devonta Smith is skinny, lanky, quick, can go up and get a 50-50 ball like Moss could, burn people like Moss could, get the yak yards that Moss could get, and he's so good. His catch radius is so amazing. He's 6'1". He's kind of quarterback proof. Like, Chase might need a more specific quarterback to cater to his skills than Devonta Smith would. Smith will adapt better. Devonta Smith played with Tua. Many people are linking Miami to Smith in the draft. That could happen. I wouldn't love that. I don't mind it. It's not awful. Miami's really good. Miami has a bright future. They may even take another quarterback, which I support. They may trade for a quarterback. They may take their future quarterback next draft. I don't think it's Tua, but the rapport between the two, because they did play together in college, would be pretty good, and Tua would be a whole lot better with Smith than without him. So if he lands in Miami, not the end of the world short term, pretty good long term. Miami's got a grip of picks and a very good defense and a much improving trajectory. I think things could get really good in the future. I just may not love Smith as much as a rookie in Miami as I would in Cincy or Philadelphia. But I see him going to the Eagles or to the Bengals. But if Jamar Chase is on the board when the Bengals are on the clock at pick number 5, I don't think the Bengals pass on reuniting Burrow with his quarterback. We're seeing a lot more of players getting what they want, being heavily involved in the process. Mahomes was able to get his pick in Clyde Edwards-Helaire in a way. I think Burrow's going to have a hand in who they get and acquire for him as a weapon. The Bengals are going to be built around Burrow. He needs to have the support and the weapons he needs in order to exceed. I like Higgins. I know a lot of you are going to be like, T. Higgins is great, Smitty. What are you talking about? I like Higgins. I love Higgins. Higgins reminds me of Courtland Sutton, though. Courtland Sutton with Jerry Jeudy will always be capped in value. Jerry Jeudy's going to always have more potential, in my opinion. Higgins will always be capped like Sutton is going to be capped by Jeudy. Higgins, if they draft a Chase or a Smith or even a Kyle Pitts, I think Jeudy's going to be a top 10 to 12 wide receiver very, very soon. If it doesn't happen in 2021, it will happen in 2022. Jeudy is off the hook. CeeDee Lamb and Jeudy are like this talent-wise. And you know how much I love CeeDee Lamb. Jeudy just doesn't have the greatest of situations right now, but that could change. They're looking to acquire Deshaun Watson. Imagine if the Denver Broncos buck up and get Deshaun Watson. Watson to Jeudy for a decade would be amazing. Jeudy would be an instant top 12 fantasy football wide receiver. You'd watch his stock climb so quickly. Know that I'm saying it now. Let me also say this. In my 17 years of fantasy football advice giving professionally, I've never ever once not recommended a running back at the 1.1 in a rookie-only draft. I've never ranked a wide receiver ahead of a running back at that top spot. Ever. And I'm telling you right now, if Chase and Smith land in Cincy or Philly, Cincy, they will be my 1.1 and 1.2 overall out of all rookies, ahead of the running backs, ahead of everybody. That's how good these landing spots are for both of them. That's how good these rookies are coming out of college. A decade of top 10 overall value potentially with these two guys in fantasy football overall. Jamar Chase is dominant with the space around him. I often talk about spatial intelligence and I relate it to like Michael Jordan, LeBron James. It oftentimes coincides with basketball players because they sometimes have the best spatial intelligence out of all athletes in sports. Jordan used his body in innate ways that you can't teach somebody. Jordan would go up for a shot, use his shoulder to leverage against somebody, create space and separation so that his shot couldn't be blocked because his body was in the way. He knew how to put his own body in positions, use the sideline, use the baseline, use other defenders, use momentum to put himself in a position where the ball could not be blocked. Same thing with LeBron James. LeBron James knows how to use the mass that he's carrying down the court to put himself in a position to completely move everybody else around him, moving all the players around like they're in a swimming pool. It's unbelievable spatial intelligence that you cannot teach somebody. Denzel Mims is one of the best doing this. Mark my words, if the Jets get a quarterback, let's say they trade and they get bold and they trade for Watson, or they take Zach Wilson and he develops in New York, watch. Denzel Mims is going to rise. People are forgetting how good he is. They're like, oh God, that's another N'Keal Harry miss that Smitty had. No, Denzel Mims is so loaded with talent, but situation is king. And people are going to judge players off of situation and go, no, he's garbage. Clyde Edwards-Helaire is garbage. And people don't really know or realize all the TDs that got called back for Clyde Edwards-Helaire. All the weird situations, the goal line stances where he gets stuffed over and over, not his fault. Bad play calling or bad timing. The defense swarming in on Clyde on the rare goal line carries he got. If you don't look at the whole picture, you're going to think Clyde busted. But if you're smart, you're going to know Clyde's going to emerge later and he's going to be a very, very good value grab in 2021 with the risk baked into the value of a third or fourth round value. Denzel Mims is the same. People will judge Denzel Mims and think he busted. He had no quarterback. He had an awful situation. He got banged up. If Watson ends up in New York or they draft Wilson, Denzel Mims is going to evolve quickly. My point is, Denzel Mims is a master of his space around him. I get sidetracked, but I was trying to tell you, Ja'Marr Chase is probably better than Denzel Mims and any other receiver I've seen in a long time come out of college at dominating the space around him. He dominates defenders in the space around him like LeBron James does on the court, like DK Metcalf does from the waist up. DK Metcalf has a strong lower body, but the majority of his strength and aggression and domination is from the waist up. Defenders get in on him, and then he dominates them at the waist above level, grabbing 50-50 balls, pushing them off. But Chase wouldn't even let somebody get in that catch radius. So when DK Metcalf high points a ball and dominates and gets the football, Ja'Marr Chase will high point the ball and literally not let anyone near the high point, and he'll catch it by himself because he used his lower body, his upper body, his waist, his elbows, his arms, his head to nudge said defender or defenders away from the high point location. There are very few players I've ever seen in the NFL that can dominate space around him like Ja'Marr Chase, and I can say that without him ever even playing a snap. At me. Comment below. So to answer the question, who do I like better, Ja'Marr Chase or Devonta Smith? The answer is going to sound wishy-washy because it matters where they land. If I'm predicting based on talent alone, I will say Devonta Smith has an edge because he can high point the ball. He has better hands. He's quicker. He's faster. Chase can dominate space around him better, but Devonta Smith can still dominate the space around him plenty good that the other qualities that he does have over Chase are going to, I think, be magnified. Now, situation is so key. Like if Devonta Smith lands in Miami and Chase lands in Cincinnati with his former quarterback, Joe Burrow, I'm gonna lean Chase being the 1.1, but Smith would still probably be my 1.2 out of all rookies, or at least my 1.3 if, let's say, Najee Harris landed in the most ideal situation known to man. I would still take Chase or Smith over him if either one of them were in Philly or in Cincy. So Chase in Cincy or Philly, I'd take him 1.1 no matter what. If Devonta Smith was in Cincy or Philly and Chase was in a lesser situation, Devonta Smith 1.1. And if Najee Harris was in the most ideal spot, he'd be my 1.2 and then Chase my 1.3. And don't rule out Chubba Hubbard if a team does want to use him like Kamara is used in New Orleans. And don't at me saying you can't say that about Chubba Hubbard, the number one running back in this draft class. He can't be, Smitty. I heard the same doubt and criticism when I said Kamara would be a top 5 to 10 running back in fantasy football his rookie year. Kamara wasn't even a top 5 rookie only pick. Do you know how much ridicule I got calling him a top 5 to 10 fantasy football running back? The same level of ridicule I get for my N'Keal Harry predictions, but that's neither here nor there. So if you think I can't say something bold about Chubba Hubbard, watch me. Chubba Hubbard is the next Alvin Kamara if a team drafts him to be that, which is the risk. Which is why he won't be my first running back taken, which is why I can continue to steal him away in early rookie-only mock drafts and drafts, or trading for draft picks to anticipate that his value will climb and I'll have a pick ready lined up to grab him. In the right spot with the coaching staff that believes in him, Chubba Hubbard would be a top 10 running back in fantasy football. He's Alvin Kamara. He has Alvin Kamara ability. Him and Kamara don't have the exact same skill set. Each are better at different things, but Chubba Hubbard, if unleashed to be a 900 to 1,000 yard rusher and 500, 600, 700 yard receiver, would be lights out. Again, feel free to at me. Ja'Marr Chase, Devonta Smith, as of right now, without knowing the landing spots, predicting that both of them will land in very good spots, Cincinnati and Philly, Philly and Cincinnati, maybe Miami for one of them. I'm pretty much telling you that right now, if forced to make the call before landing spots are revealed, at least one of them is my top overall ranked rookie. And until I know the landing spots, I am moving both of them to 1.1 and 1.2. Devonta Smith barely ahead of Chase based on the fact that Smith has so many more intangibles than Chase. Chase is so dominant in the right spot with Jalen Hurts slinging the ball to him, or Joe Burrow comfortably saying, "Bro, remember when we used to do this in college?" Catch. Either of those situations makes Chase a monster, but Chase isn't as polished as a blocker. He doesn't seem quite as motivated in plays that don't involve him. It reminds me of a few players that would be less than excited when the play wasn't directly going to them. Smith is a yak yard machine, a slant master, a guy that can dominate across the field and vertically. Smith is polished. Oh my God. Chase feels like DK. Not one-dimensional, but very, very, very good, almost impossible to be better than vertical, and with the high point 50-50 balls. But he doesn't have what Devonta Smith has across the middle, the slants, the route running, the hands, the speed, and neither has to be had, all the different things to be the number 1, 2, 3, or 4 wide receiver in fantasy football, period. Either skill set in the right environment would be the number 1, number 2, number 3 wide receiver in fantasy football. That's why me liking Smith so much more overall doesn't really mean that he could be ranked higher than Chase if the situation's better. Situation's king. Tell me what wide receiver you like better heading into 2021. And if you're one of those Waddle people, you can comment below. We won't make you take a lap. I still like Waddle to a degree. I think he's more in the vein of a Rager or Ruggs versus being in the vein of a Chase or Smith if I had to pick. But I do feel like he could become a better player than Rager and Ruggs. He could be a high-end wide receiver too. Next up will be my running back breakdown, where I'll tackle just the running backs. Who's the number 1 running back? Is it Hubbard because I love him so much? Or is it Najee Harris because the opportunity, let's be honest, will probably be better for Najee Harris? More teams see him as an every down back than teams see Hubbard, I think, and that's the risk in Hubbard. Similar to ETN. ETN in the right spot would go crazy. In the wrong spot, he might not be as good. There's risk involved in Hubbard and ETN based on landing spot and coaching staff and belief and support. Similar to Darrell Henderson getting drafted to the Rams and never getting his full shot. Tell your friends, tell your grandma, tell everybody about the show, and get on over to smitty1.com, where you can find all my social handles, all my links to everything, my sleeperu.com link, where you can get your news from me at sleeperu, like a university, letter u.com, sleeperu.com. Get your news from me. Dynasty and redraft tied into every news post that I make, and my most recent show is always at smitty1.com. So subscribe, follow if you're new to the channel. I appreciate you.
This is the Fantasy Football Show with your host, Smitty.
Top 5 running back. You're watching the Fantasy Football Show.
Smitty!